So I wanted to go through the books that I had culled for this video, and I'm just under the impression that if this video doesn't get struck, then I'm going to go ahead and put up videos. This is the last one. This is the last one of the series, and it's got some pretty bad stuff in it. I mean, I'm going to be showing a few books here that are just, you know, really wild, and another thing. So these are the books that I pulled from the lineup. This is taken, it's a reprint from 1840 of Richard Wagner, Yehudaism and Music, Richard Wagner. And right here is 1942 by Philip Wiley, Generation of Vipers. And it's classic, and it makes a lot of predictions. Now, Philip Wiley is more widely known for his books, science fiction books. He was a big science fiction author. He authored When Worlds Collide and After Worlds Collide. And I knew all kinds of different science fiction buffs that read his stuff even up into the mid-70s. And in this book, he writes about the outbreak of disease in Miami in the 30s. He writes some about the Spanish flu days. He lived through that. And he predicts in this book that before the end of the century, which at his time would be the 1900s, the 20th century, he predicted that a woman would be running for vice president on the ticket as a vice president candidate, a nominee. And he was correct. He was correct in predicting that, because it was in 1984 that Walter Mondale was challenging Ronald Reagan and George Bush, but Walter Mondale's running mate was Geraldine Ferraro. Now, here, this comes from 1966. This is a lot of Nazi propaganda, but it's got a lot of interesting facts about the first and second Hitler. Great Commander George Lincoln Rockwell. So George Lincoln Rockwell, who was like the president of the Nazi Party here in America, he was and so a lot of propaganda. But this is a 1976 reprint from 1943, The Catcher in the Rye. I paid 10 cents for that book, and let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, it is worth every penny and no more. Horrible book, terribly written. This was required reading in the 70s and 60s. They wanted everybody to read, and it was just the book is nothing but debauchery and four-letter swear words. After reading this book, a lot of people would just start cussing and swearing, and it's just terrible horror. You can read, after reading the first 10 pages of it, you realize that the author has no command whatsoever of the English language, and somebody just told him what to write. Here, do the best you can. Oh yeah, it's perfect. It'll work. But it was terrible. It's pulled out. I got this down when I lived in Cocoa Beach. It's from the Cocoa Beach Library. And next is a very special book. It comes from 1982. It's called True Ghosts of North Georgia. And it's got my mother's name, where she wrote it right here. And then it's got my dad, he wrote his name right here and right here. So how many people actually living today have a ghost book, a ghost story book written in 1982, the early 1980s, that is signed by both of his parents, his mother and his father? That is special, and it's a good book. It's a good book. I can see why they liked it so much. And next is The Day They Padlocked the Church, and I had two other books titled the same but different. And I had read two other books, so I've read 5 total books titled exactly The Day They Padlocked the Church. And basically, your church gets padlocked for 2 reasons. 2 reasons. The first reason would be that the pastor, minister, reverend, whatever, preacher is preaching against communism. If your preacher is preaching against communism, then you're going to lose everything. You'll lose the preacher. He's going to end up in the slammer, and the deacons, the elders. And it's the deacons and elders that actually rat on the ministers and the preachers. So if you're a deacon or an elder in the church, notice who all is a this right here. Okay? So, and that way you'll know who's going to rat on you. But the other reason that churches get locked down is because they feel like they can start a school because they're not-for-profit, they're a religious organization, or things of that nature. But no. You have to have state approval. You have to use state-published books to have a school, a private school. And so that's why your churches get padlocked. Now, this comes from 1990. I'm just kind of moving up by year. 1990, and it is just absolute total propaganda by this guy that was born in the early 1900s, and he saw World War I, World War II, and then how he became a great scholar, a Bachelor of Science. He became a Bachelor of Science, but it's called The Nazi Era, Its Essentials. And he got a Bachelor of Science, but there's not a page in here that's not just loaded with misspellings, mispunctuation, everything. So he got a Bachelor of Science, but he couldn't even literarily create a book that is, the writing in it is just absolutely horrible. Horrible. Why didn't you take an English lesson, sir, and learn how to spell? There's so many horrible misspellings. Well, my point is, how can you get a Bachelor of Science and be so terrible at writing? Well, evidently somebody just paid him to just knock out a bunch of stuff, and he didn't have a clue of anything whatsoever. And this is a vanity book here. My Angels Work for Me by Reverend John Van Dree Sr. And Van Dree Sr. because there is a Van Dree Jr. And who's a really smart guy, and he actually, last I heard, he was actually working for the company. And this is what his father, right here on the back, big picture of him, handsome fellow, and he wrote this book and published it in 2004. It'd been in the works for years. He just hadn't had time to put it all together, and he wanted to change some things. And like I say, it came out in 2004, and we're going to turn to page 69. 69 in here. He was a dowser. He was a president or leader of the Seven Continent Dowsers, club, which is the biggest dowsing organization, I guess, anywhere in the world. The tomb of Alexander the Great. And then he goes down here to talk to relate a story that I covered, I think, in book 1, which was written several years before this. And it's just fun for me to see how close the story is from two completely different stories, from different angles, because he knew Stephen Fryer and the psychic that was with him, and we all met at 1:30 in the morning in a downtown Chicago restaurant. And the whole story is really fascinating, how they came up to me and how he did this, and then we ended up being friends. But the whole story is detailed here. And now I'm going to show you something from this page here. He writes, I flew down to St. Louis expecting to be met by a man much older than Harry turned out to be. I guess Harry and his associate, Paul Shafranca, have knowledge of 33 ancient languages. And that's a little slightly twisted there, because Paul knows 33 to 35, and I only know 10. I only know 10 ancient languages. So, but on page 70 here, we went to a Chinese restaurant, and everybody had fun with him, and it was my friends. After my conversations with Harry, I began to realize that he is the most intelligent person that I have ever met. His knowledge in so many fields is very impressive. So that's why this is a vanity book, because how many people alive today have books written about them? A lot. A lot. That's not a confined set. But how many people write books and say that about the person they're writing about? I'm just asking. the next thing I pulled, because it's just too much, is Vatican Assassins by Eric Phelps. And the book comes with a CD-ROM if you buy it. And if you do buy it, try to get a copy from somebody of the CD-ROM or order one. Mine's around here somewhere. I cannot find it. I can't find it. I haven't been able to find it in a couple of years or so, but I have seen it. But the CD-ROM has all the books printed in it that he uses as his references here. And this came out in 2001, and it was a present to me from Bear Boy 2. Bear Boy 2 gave me that book. So now I'm going to show you just a couple of other items. This is from 1997. This is one of the book catalog, and I've got others from the early 90s, 95, 93, of different off-the-wall book clubs. The Sons of Liberty book and tape list, that would be cassette tapes. It's just on and on and on, just hundreds and hundreds of books. Hundreds of books that you ain't going to find. I would be willing to say probably very few of these are available today anywhere. Just unbelievable. And now I'm going to show something that I might, if I get a strike for it, well, I'll know just to delete this video. But I do want to put this one up first to see how it does. I got this right here. This is the Klansman. It's a newspaper. And if anybody is familiar with my previous video, Harry and the Killer Whales, you can see that I document a lot about these guys and other guys as well. But this right here is a Klansman from August 1992, and it is for sale. This is here. 3 days of rage in L.A. Riots sparked by Rodney Jean King verdict. And I've got 3 of these, and they're all 3 for sale. I just found them recently in a tote, and the articles are really just way out in left field. Yep. So anyway, I just people might think because I'm showing you this that I am a Klansman, but I am not. Never have been, never will be, and just have them as nostalgic. Just went through them again, and I've got 3 of them that I would sell. Published by Empire Publishing of Connecticut, Inc. Hey, there you go. All you guys in Connecticut, you want some Connecticut nostalgia? Here you are. But wait a second. I thought the clans were down in the South. I ain't going there. That's a wrap, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. God bless you. Peace out, my brothers and sisters. Are you guys going to let me do a shoot?